we never want to be seen as saying don't do this. It's just don't mandate it.
Landline now, welcome back. We are into the month of July, and that means it's time to talk about a new issue of Landline magazine. Managing editor Jamie Jones, senior editor Mark Schremer, and associate editor Tyson Fisher join me now. Thank you all for coming in.
Hey, you're welcome, Ashley.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Now, Jamie, I want to start with you and the editor's page, which I always enjoy. You open this one up with a movie reference from Dodgeball, which I don't know if I've seen. And I know that's going to be one of those movies. Everyone's going to be like, what? You've never seen Dodgeball? I don't think I've seen it. Tell me more.
Well, this was another issue where I was definitely on the struggle bus trying to figure out a theme for the editor's page. And I think Mark has some sort of sick entertainment of this process because he's like, have there been any dog shows lately? And I was like, and so I'm in there cruising around on YouTube. It's amazing. I keep my job after I admit all the stuff that I go and look on work. Anyway, and I wound up watching a corgi dog race on ESPN The Ocho. Apparently, this is a real thing. So I'm watching clips, and I walk out of my office, and I go, did you know corgis can run up to 25 miles per hour? And they're like, what is wrong with you? Anyway, but The Ocho brought me back to Dodgeball. And there's a pretty, I think it's an iconic scene. The whole movie is just one-liners strung together for the sake of humor. But the one scene where the tail end, it's the kind of the climax where Average Joe's Gym comes out. And here, we'll just play it, and we can watch it, and then I'll go ahead and finish my story.
Yes, no, I'm being told that Average Joe's does not have enough players and will be forfeiting the championship match.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Anyway, when Pepper says that, it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see, I have used that on my kids so many times when they were younger and would do the dumbest stuff. And as that thought process kind of came together, it was like, oh my gosh, we've got the EPA on EV trucks. We've got, emission standard. We've got all these things. It's a bold strategy, Cotton, and I'm like, it just fit beautifully in that. It brought a little bit of humor for a very frustrating situation because I think a lot of what is highlighted in here is absolutely anybody who really wants to approach it from a pragmatic standpoint knows we're not ready for this stuff. It's a bold strategy that's not going to play out.
Now, diving into that bold strategy, we'll look at some of the issues with the new emission standards. Tyson, you wrote about the cost. What can truckers expect when it comes to the sticker price on these electric trucks?
A lot of money. To put it. There's been a lot of analysis going into this and how much it's going to cost, a lot of speculation. But the big study that came from Ryder, and they put out this study. They pretty much quantified what we all pretty much knew. And to make a long story short, what they discovered was the cost to electrify their fleet would basically double the cost of the trucking operation. So what that means is to get the same production output out of an electric truck as you would from a diesel truck, it would take 2 electric vehicles to get the same output as 1 diesel truck. And so therefore you would need 2 more human drivers. And so all these things just start to add up. And what they found was the cost to operate, like in Georgia, I believe it was, is about $300,000 for a diesel truck. For an electric truck, it's like more than $600,000. And so, and that's just to own the truck and to operate it. We're not talking about a whole lot of other opportunity costs with downtime for what it takes to charge these things. There's just so many variables involved in the electrification of vehicles I would like to say that was not considered when the emission rules were put out, but they had to be because we addressed these things. There were so many comments that were put out and they were ignored. And now we have stakeholders, including an association that represents dealerships, even passenger vehicle dealerships, are saying, man, I don't know how we're going to sell these cars because right now nobody wants them. And that's true with passenger vehicles now too. Passenger vehicle, electric vehicles vehicles have reached a slump in sales. And that's because basically what happened was there was a surge in electric vehicle sales. And what that surge represented was that everyone who wanted an electric vehicle got them. Well, now everyone who wants them has them, and now it's the rest of us. And so now we're in this situation, we're in a limbo right now. And the problem with that is we now have a federal government mandate to move forward with electric vehicles that's not in line with what the general public wants. And so it's going to be very costly to say the least.
So in the end, the bold strategy is to charge twice as much for half the efficiency and clog up the roads and, not add parking spaces because...
that too.
There you go.
Right.
Now, Mark, I know one of the major issues we've heard about when it comes to electric trucks is power, or should I say lack thereof. You wrote about this. Tell me more.
Yeah. So, I mean, going back to this bold strategy type of theme, these things you can look at good on paper. We want everybody, wants a cleaner environment and all of that. But if you're going to mandate this, there's got to be the infrastructure in place for everybody to charge these vehicles. There's got to be a power grid that can, handle it. And what we're finding, I was going back and listening to several different hearings where people from trucking have talked about this. And one of them told a story about a trucking executive called up in Joliet, Illinois, called up the city officials and said, okay, we want to do this. We want to start a truck depot, 30 electric trucks. We want to get that set up. And they literally, and this is how I kind of started the story, they thought it was a joke. The city officials started laughing and saying, are you kidding me? That what you're asking for would take more power than the entire city power grid for 30 trucks. Yet, it's a bold strategy that we want all trucks nationwide to be doing this. And you have to have that framework in place before you can pull forward with something like that.
100%. And we're in the middle. A lot of us around the country are getting, the first round of super high temperatures. And it's already, you have the electric companies putting the message out, 2 degrees, raise your thermostat 2 degrees. I mean, you see it on Facebook or wherever. I will take down an entire power grid before I turn my thermostat up to 68. Everybody knows that we're getting ready to hit these rolling blackouts and other things like that. And so you think about the demand of something like that truck depot on top of it. No way. I will take down an entire grid.
I mean, you can't mandate a vegan diet if all you have in your fridge is meat. You know
Exactly.
what I mean? And that's basically what they're asking for right now. It's not set up to do it, but we're saying, well, you have to.
And just for those who might be unaware, it's 2032. They want 25% of all new trucks sold.
Sleeper cab trucks. And then for day cabs, it's even a higher percentage. And so, it's right now, I believe, if I read right, electric vehicle sales for commercial vehicles represents 0.1%. So we got a lot of ground to cover in the next coming years.
And not a lot of time, Now, Tyson, there has been some legal action taken against EPA's new truck emission rule. Tell me more about that.
So a couple. So we got several Republican-led states that are challenging this, basically the emission standards. Then on top of that, OOIDA, along with some associations representing farmers and the gas and oil industry, have also filed suit against the federal government, basically saying the details of the arguments haven't been released yet. But the idea here is that this rule is essentially unconstitutional, that the EPA has overstepped its boundaries in establishing this rule. And so we got some Republicans in Congress that are challenging it. That's just a congressional challenge. I think it's more likely that a legal challenge in the court would be more successful. And so it's going to be a long process, but we have states, we have the public sector and the private sector both trying to fight this rule.
Well, and when you look at it, the climate that we're in right now, not to even have a play on words, but we're in a political season. We're up against an election. So for Congress to be able to get anything through meaningful with partisan politics heading into an election is going to be extremely difficult. So that path forward is going to be through litigation if they continue to pursue it.
And Tyson, another article of yours I wanted to
Did anybody else write anything in this magazine?
Tyson,
and back to Tyson.
Another one of your articles on the states that are challenging California's advanced clean fleets regulation. What is that about?
So, yeah, California has what's called the Advanced Clean Fleets Rule, and it's kind of similar to the federal emission standards, but even more strict than that.
What?
Yeah, I know, right? California, get out of here. But, yeah, for certain fleets, they have to go pretty much completely zero emission by, I think it was 2032. So all new sales or all new acquisitions of trucks would have to be zero emission. Now, you can keep the old ones, but if you're going to buy a new one, it's got to be zero emissions. So again, that's also being challenged by a coalition of Republican-led states, and I also believe the California Trucking Association and the Western States Trucking Association is challenging that as well. But yeah, similar, but again, California being California, much more strict.
And, all of this issue and all these stories that we just ran through, they really point at the shortcomings of electric vehicles. And that should never be confused with the free market having its right to decide if they want to adopt this technology, because there's nothing wrong. If it fits your operation, if you have the infrastructure, if you have all of that, and this is what you want to do with your business, great. Be able to do that. Where we have to highlight all of these things and show the shortcomings is because we have mandates that are being proposed. And anytime you start mandating technology that doesn't exist, that can't stand up to the test or anything like that, that's when we have to go on the offensive and show all of these shortcomings. It's not that electric vehicles don't have a place in the world. It's not any of that. I mean, you said people who want them can get them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the thing is, the biggest overhead cost for owner-operators is fuel. If electric vehicles, once they start to deliver economically feasibly, I don't see why any trucker would not get one. I mean, you're pretty much eliminating that biggest overhead cost. So once it's become, again, economically feasible, I mean, people are going to jump all over them. The problem is this mandate puts the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
And by doing so, it's actually going to cost the industry rather than save them any money.
Eventually, consumers.
Yeah,
it will get passed along.
Right. Well, in that real quick, that Ryder report said that if we were to completely electrify fleets today, it could raise inflation by a complete percentage point. So, I mean, that's very significant.
No, we don't need that.
So that's kind of emphasizes how we're just not quite there yet.
Yeah. I was just going to say, it reminded me of automatic emergency brakes.
Uh-huh.
If those worked the way that everybody said, that wanted to, truckers would get them on their own. If you let the market play out, and if technology actually works, people will get it on their own, and you don't have to mandate it.
Right. It'll creep in. It'll be its own thing. It's like anti-lock brakes. Yeah. I mean, years ago when those were first, pitched, everybody was throwing a fit about them. And now we have them on everything and nobody realizes it because the technology is so advanced now that, that's just a good example of where a mandate was, again, premature, but eventually the tech caught up to everything. Yep. So, I mean, we never want to be seen as saying, don't do this. It's just don't mandate it. Mm-hmm. I think that's the big distinction on this stuff.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you all very much for the information.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Our thanks to Jamie Jones, Mark Schremer, and Tyson Fisher of Landline Magazine. You can also check out landline.media for the latest from the trucking industry. And if you have a news tip, you can contact us through our website or call 816-229-5791.